Let's speak with Professor Emmanuel Sodeke, I should say, who is the National President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. He now joins us live from Abia State. Thankfully, we're able to get him on the show. It's good to have you on the program, Professor Sodeke.
Thank you very much.
I imagine a lot of students, parents watching us and just imagining what is the fate of the education sector. I earlier on asked about the security aspect, and I was making reference to the abduction in Zamfara State. I don't know if it's also something you're following. I don't know if you've seen the president's statement and some of the activities of security forces. I imagine this also hurts you as a teacher. Is there anything that you'd like to say on that before we move into the issues?
Well, for us as a union, it's general. It's not just about students, it's about the staff, the workers, and everybody. We're under threat. And our own idea is that it's not peculiar to a section, it's the whole country. The country under threat, and our prayer is that the security agencies should do their work and ensure that people are safe. Nobody is safe anywhere, except maybe those who go around with a convoy of security aids and what have you. But the ordinary Nigerian, the lecturers, the students, the workers in the university system, the primary school, secondary school, we are all unsafe. And there's a need for the government to rebuild its security architecture for the safety of all Nigerians. And that's what we have on that. In general, our members are being kidnapped.
Oh dear. So when this government came into power, education was a big deal for it, at least in terms of the policies it put out on the table. And the president followed suit with the signing of the student loan bill into law. It became an act. That was just in June or thereabouts. So it looked like there was a lot of activity. But as school resumes again, what can you tell us about the state of tertiary education in Nigeria today? Is it better than it was before this government came into power? It's been just over 3 months anyway.
The universities are never closed. We have been working overnight, even during the Christmas, to ensure that we meet up for the background of where we were. The time missed during the strike, we have been working on that, and the universities are not closed. That is the correction too. Well, this government have come in, they introduced student loan, and for us, this has been on for a long time. Since 2017, when we started negotiation with government, this issue has been on, and our own idea is that the loan, when you are talking about student union loan, it has to be it has to be comprehensive. Now there is nothing to show that it will work. There is nothing to show that it will work. So that's our view. That there's a need for a review, check what happened in the past, and see how we can move forward. But for us, our idea is that instead of calling this loan, let us call it a grant. It's a civil service government this thing. If you look at the conditions, the 90% of the students will not have access to that loan. If you check the conditions, that you must have two parents who earn less than 500,000 per annum. How many parents? Where could you have that from? How many people earn less than 500,000 per annum?
If you can still hear me, so let's speak to these issues raised. We just spoke with the CONUA president before you joined on the program, and he raised some issues. But regarding just what are the unions fighting for? What are you putting on the table on the side of ASUU? Well, CONUA says, well, these are what he called pragmatic approach that it is taking to ensuring that the education sector is better at the tertiary level. ASUU is also doing its own thing. And I asked him that how is this then working together for the tertiary education system in Nigeria? Do you think that CONUA, ASUU is good, existing on their own? What exactly will come out of this, Prof, really?
Well, I won't talk about CONUA because as far as concerned, we're in court with them on their legality. So until that court, Supreme appeal court, until that issue is settled, we'll not talk about CONUA. But for ASUU, go around Nigerian universities today, and it's very clear. What are the infrastructure? What are the academic staff salaries? These issues are what we have been fighting for over the years. These are the issues we have been fighting for over the years. And the government is not going to be listening. On this issue, in 2017, the government set up a negotiation team to negotiate with us, chaired them by Dr. Babalaki. We spent 3 years and we couldn't arrive at a solution. Then that committee was dissolved. Another one set up by chaired by Muzali Jubril was set up, and we reached an agreement in 2020 for the government to go look at it. If there are issues, they come back to us, and then we sign. But it took 1 year and a strike before the government came back to us and dissolved that committee again, and appointed another one here by the late Professor Nimi Briggs. And after a very serious negotiation, we had an agreement, which both sides were supposed to sign. And suddenly from nowhere, the then Minister of Labour and his group came on air and said, we have awarded the university 25%, 23.5% junior lecturers, lower lecturers, and 35% for professors. And we said that is not the basis of the principles of collective bargaining, which Nigeria subscribed to as a member of NLO. So that is where we stopped that time. That if we have to reach an agreement, it should be an agreement on both sides and not an award. But you know, if you give an award to somebody, you can also withdraw the award at your own instance. But if it's an agreement, both sides have to maintain the agreement. That was where we deviated in 2022. That today, when this new minister came in, and he said as a way of starting, that is the Minister of Education, of starting a process of having a peaceful universities, we should allow him implement this while the process of negotiation continues. I think that is where you have this issue of 23.5 and 35.5. That is the origin. We also met with the minister, the two ministers, not Minister of State. We met with the Minister of State, informally, the Minister of Education, both of them. So if that is the way they want to start, as long as the principle of collective bargaining is still in place, the agreement we have reached is still going to be studied by the government, then they can do what they have done. That's where we are.
So regarding the salary increment, you're saying that you welcome this, but this is not what you're asking for, or at least it doesn't capture the issues on the table. Am I correct?
You are right. Since 1990, our agreement, our salary has been based on agreement between both sides, that even the government leaves power, the next one comes, there's an agreement you can look at and implement.
All right. So, Prof, what are the issues still at stake? What are the outstanding issues? If you could just list them quickly for Nigerians. So we're all on this table together anyway, so we know the issues at stake. What are they?
One is the issue of funding. When you go to Nigerian universities today, the funding is low. And we have said this, go around Africa, you can Google it. The least country in West Africa give 12% of their budget to education. But the last regime gave 3.8%, the lowest in the world. And we are saying that this regime, with their background and the ministers, people we are seeing around him, there is a need to go back to that document and ensure that at least 15 to 20% of our budget is given to education because of the importance of education in terms of security, in terms of manpower development, in terms of every aspect of the country. So that is easy. It's not talking about, I had a few people say, the university generates 50 billion. Nigerian university generates 50 billion. What do they use it for? And I asked myself, what is 50 billion? 50 billion divided by about 80-something universities you have in the country. What does that come to? So that is what we should be talking about. Let's increase our budgetary allocation to education.
Right. So
and
one is funded. So one is funded. There's a question of autonomy.
Yes.
That you want autonomy.
Pardon me. Remuneration.
Remuneration, right, which we have talked about. So funding, remuneration, but particularly on funding. So how do you want it to work with autonomy if you're asking for autonomy, yet you're still asking that government fund universities? So do you want full autonomy as well? Because some will say if the government is funding education, then it should still have some level of control.
You see, we're having misinterpretation of what autonomy is. The Autonomy Act was signed in the year 2007, was signed. Autonomy is well defined by that law. When we say autonomy, we don't say government should not be part of the running of the system. That we should follow that law. That law is very clear. The number one person that runs the university is the president, who acts as visitor to all universities. He is a visitor to all federal universities, which is the president. When you look at that law, the president set up a committee, we call it a governing council, to run the affair of the universities. For that council, the government nominates 6 members, including the chairman. The university also nominate their people, and the community, which is the alumni, and the university also nominate people to serve in that committee. Then the law also indicates how that committee or that council will run. And at the end of the tenure of council, every 5 years, the visitor will now send a team to go and investigate how they have run the universities. If there are infringements, those who did who participated that are punished. That is what the law says. The autonomy does not, we didn't say financial autonomy, we said Autonomy Act 2007. It is there, having been passed by the National Assembly and signed by the President. So what would you see? Let me give you an example. National Assembly is an autonomous body. Does it fund itself? The judiciary is autonomous. Does it fund itself?
Right.
And so forth and so on. So when you talk about autonomy, we should not be talking about privatizing universities. We didn't say privatize. When you say government should not fund, when you say the federal government should privatize the Nigerian universities, where is that done in any democratic country in the world?
So, Prof, let's take the other issues quickly as we progress on this conversation. So we've talked about funding. You've added autonomy and tried to clear the air on what at least that means from ASUU side. Remuneration. What are the other outstanding issues, Prof?
The other outstanding issues are the agreement we reach. There are infringement in the system. I will give you a typical example. For now, no universities, no governing council can do investment with their fund, because they say every fund generated by university, everything must go to TSA and IPPIS. Therefore, if a university has 2-3 billion, instead of investing that money and getting money in return, they can no more do it, as it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The university can generate their money with the capital they have, but now everyone will go to the TSA and you can't invest. That's one of these. That's the infringement on the autonomy. Today, a vice chancellor, in need a good lecturer, cannot appoint a lecturer without going to get permission from head of service. Where in the world is that on?
I don't know how many more issues are outstanding, but I wanted to get your reactions to some of the things that have been talked about of recent. First is, the president's statement, which he put out today. And I asked earlier about your overview of the education sector, just how much has changed, if anything has changed. And the president in his statement said that, there should not be such act of kidnapping on people whose only offense was their pursuit of quality education. And I want to know if you sort of agree with that statement. Would you describe education in Nigeria today as quality, at least for public education at the tertiary level where you operate?
I agree with the president and with all those agencies that everybody today is at risk. The academics are at risk. And the worst thing is that many of us go to work with public transport.
So my question is about the quality of education, so we know where we're at.
The quality of education in Nigeria today is low.
So can you say that we have quality education in Nigeria?
For you to have quality education, you must ensure that our laboratories are functional. You must ensure that the classrooms are in such a way that students will sit in the classroom and have lecture in a conducive environment. Lecturers should not have excess students they are teaching. Today in some universities, the ratio between students and lecturers should be 1:10, 1:15. But in some faculties today, in some universities, the ratio is 1:50. So there has to be a good balance, as you have all over the world. And that is why today you don't see students coming from outside to Nigerian universities. Not because of the quality of the lecturers or the quality of the teaching, but the quality of the environment. You don't have a university where you have 1,000 people taking lecture in one lecture room that can only take 200 students. And we have that well documented in the need assessment report, which we have. And we government need to look at that report and see how we can revamp it, as we have suggested in that report during the era of Goodluck Jonathan. And they agreed to release some money to university to ensure that this infrastructure are bring up to such a level that we can have students coming all over the world, having lecturers coming from all over the world to teach in Nigeria. I think that's where we are.
So let's wind down with this, Prof. The Minister of State for Education put out that statement, and it's interesting to hear that you've also met with the ministers, and he appealed to students, parents, and lecturers in institutions of higher learning to shun acts that are capable of disrupting the academic session. Is that to say maybe the minister is suspecting that you are planning another strike based on some of these outstanding issues? Is that something that is in the offing?
Well, you see, the Minister of State for Education should look at it from both sides. If students, lecturers, and the community don't want to not do anything, the government should also do its own part. Very simple. Today, universities are arbitrarily increasing tuition fee, the school fees. They are increasing tuition fee. Is that correct? In an environment today where the minimum wage in Nigeria is 30,000 naira per month, where they have to pay rent, pay heavily for transportation, and you are forcing this thing on the students. Let me give you that. As a result of this, and I can assure you can check, if nothing is done about this heavy fee being introduced all over the country today, in the next 2 or 3 years, more than 40 to 50% of these students who are in school will drop out. And when they drop out, they become a big field for recruitment by those who want this country to be ungovernable. So that's what we are saying. Create the environment we have in the 60s, 70s. When I was a student, the government was paying me for being a student. Let's have an environment where the students, children of the poor can have access to education, not closing them. If you pay school fee of 300,000 naira, how can the children of somebody who pay 50,000 naira a month be able to pay such fee? So we need to look at all of them. That's why I'm talking about this government with their background should increase budgetary education to at least 15% from the present last year 3.8 to generate enough money to fund the system so that we don't have this ICL students dropping out of school.
Well, we have to anchor at this point, Prof, but certainly a very dire picture you painted, and we certainly do not hope that will be the case. That is why all hands must be on deck. But we'd like to thank you so much for joining us on the program, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, the National President of ASUU. We wish you the very best.
Thank you.